And do we have other good things before we keep moving on?
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to say,
make sure we were done.
I just wanted to say that I like that the character didn't completely leap away from a stereotype, because otherwise I don't think we would have bought it that he was in this kind of a job. So he needed kind of some of those characteristics and that we got, but we also saw a little, a little bit of tweaking and making him unique in the and just he seemed to recognize that he was what he was. He didn't think it was, something elevated. He was at that turf place, and he knew that he was there, and that he knew that he wrote for a trashy magazine. So I like that just by making the character aware of, that he wasn't that special, that it switched it, made him more real. I never caught myself thinking, oh, this guy's, he couldn't possibly be in this job. Like, he just suited it, but he was also enough of a stereotype to not be a stereotype.
I could see that. Although I had a different take on it. Like, I didn't think of it that way, but when you say it that way, it does make sense. I was kind of confused throughout the story because I wasn't sure what to make of it. I couldn't tell if it was trying to make fun of that whole genre and that kind of character and that kind of writing, if it was supposed to be some sort of like a farce or a parody, or if it was taking itself seriously. So my confusion over that left me kind of like unsure of how to react to the entire thing.
I found it kind of like I don't know how to explain it. I said private eye-ish on here because you think of like those like black and white thing, like the woman walked into my office, she was blonde, like blondes are always bring trouble, like that kind of yeah. And again, like with you, I didn't know whether that was like a good or a bad critique, because is that supposed to be like that?
Well, is it falling into cliche unintentionally,
or is
it deliberately?
Because it's doing it very well.
Yeah,
I just don't know if that's kind of Trevor's purpose.
Yeah, until he was asking for proof, I thought it was. They just assumed it was a private eye. I just assumed it was some sort of detective. But I think one of the reasons why we're coming to that conclusion, because it's important to know why we're thinking that, is the description of who he's with.
Companion?
Yeah, the companion. She isn't given any real description for some time. She's like.
And we don't really know what he does for some time too. Like it's he's got the tape recorder. He's taking notes. He's asking questions, but we don't know. Like, is it because he's? For some reason, I had lawyer in my mind at the very beginning. I don't know why, but
lawyer might do those things.
Yeah. But the private eye definitely now that I think of it, that's kind of how it felt at the beginning.
I just kind of felt like the writing was like that.
Yeah.
The observations he was making.
And just come back to the companion. It was just such a slow, deliberate reveal. It didn't quite fit with the rest of the story, because there didn't seem to be much of a reason to, say you can't look at this character for now. But
that's a good point.
That reminded me of Private Eye stuff too.
Plus, I didn't really agree with the word companion, because at first I thought it was a guy, and then it was like a buddy, kind of like companion. I don't know if you call your buddy your companion, but anyways. And then then I found out it was a woman, and when you say companion, I think of someone in a relationship or someone that knows them very well.
Yeah.
So companion didn't fit for me.
I wanted to bring up structure. It was one thing that I didn't like was how there were only 2 periods of it happening when he seems to address the reader, because the narrator definitely isn't addressing the other character. See, here's the thing. My editor called me into his office, blah, blah, and then we got some exposition in the first person. But then the second time it happens is at the end, and it's the same thing. See, here's how the story ends, but it's in the third person. And that I thought one of them was a slip, and that, the fact that he was pulling us out was deliberate, but that maybe he didn't notice that he was doing it in the third person. And anyway, I didn't
like the second one in the third person. It was an interesting device, but I think partly because it goes on for so long, I got lost to the point where it started to feel like it was some different other narrator speaking. And it didn't sound like that character that I'd gotten to know through the entire story. And honestly, I don't want to be unfair to the author or anything, but it felt a little bit like a sort of a cop-out at the end to try and give us a lot of information in a short period of time. So, and I don't think that that has to be like this, even if he doesn't lengthen it, but I think the voice contributed to that.
I did love the writing there, though. Like, those were kind of my favorite those last two paragraphs I just loved. So I know what you mean, like, it did feel like it's rushed, and it's kind of a switch in the point of view, but the writing at the same time is really good, so.
I liked it. I liked the different voices. I liked that it starts out with a lot of short clipped sentences, and then when it gets into these other voices, the sentences are longer. And I like that it changes from sort of the first person at the end to kind of a long lens and pulls back. I mean, I just found it worked for me. I thought it made it kind of interesting, and that I assumed that it was quite deliberate and kind of an epilogue. It's certainly an epilogue quality to it, but I guess I enjoyed that because the language changes so much.
I thought it was deliberate too, and I liked it, but it was shocking just because I wasn't ready for it. So I thought maybe that same sort of disembodied voice could be put in the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I thought it almost would have made sounded a little bit better if it had started, kind of like bookended. Like, here's the story, here's how it's gonna start, and we get the story in the point of view that we have of the narrator, and then it pulls back out again and is like summarizing. So
That's a really good idea. Like, you could set up our intrepid reporter is in the cafe